Oeufs à la neige, snow eggs, floating islands, whatever you choose to call these delights, they're one of my favorite sweets. Extremely light meringues are poached in slightly sweetened cream until just set and then glazed with a thin, crisp caramel coating. Creme Anglaise is the most essential sauce to serve with them, hence the name floating islands, as the meringues float lightly in the golden pool of sauce. The first thing for the Oeufs à la neige that you need to do is to get some milk on poaching, because the light meringue that we're going to whisk up in a moment, we're going to poach in milk. So in this saucepan here, a wide saucepan, you could use a wide frying pan as well, or even a wide roasting tray. I've got my milk, which I've sweetened lightly with sugar, and that's come up to a bare simmer. Have that ready before you start, because once the meringue is whisked, then you need to shape the eggs or the Oeufs and get them in poaching straight away. So we're making a meringue here, but where with conventional meringue, generally speaking, you have double the amount of sugar to egg whites. With this, we're making a lighter meringue, so the proportion is almost in reverse. So some egg whites. Here we go. Let's get these beating. It's just sort of fluffing up very, very lightly. It hasn't, not sort of firming or holding its shape or anything at this stage. But this is the point at which I just sprinkle in the sugar. It can all go in one go. There's no need to add it in gradually. And now put it back onto whisk until it's good and firm so I can get a nice, smooth, lovely egg shape. Okay, let's have a look. I think we're there now. Yeah, see the way it's a lovely, firm meringue that's going to hold its shape. That's what I'm after. Now, your milk, which has been heating ahead of time, may get a little skin on it, and it's not the end of the world if that ends up on the Oeuf, but it's nicer if it isn't there. I usually run a sieve or a whisk, like I'm doing here, across the top, and just gather up those little bits of skin. If the milk simmers or if it boils too hard, it's going to break up the relatively delicate little Oeuf. To shape the Oeuf, I usually dip my spoon into the milk just to warm it slightly, and then just sort of against the side of the bowl make approximate sort of Oeuf or quenelle shapes. And because they're so light, it floats. And keep going then until they're all in there. They're going to poach very gently with the milk only barely simmering, the odd bubble breaking around the side of the saucepan. We're going to poach these for about 3 or 4 minutes on this side. Okay, I think I'm ready to turn them over. So take a little palette knife or an egg slice and just sort of encourage them to flip over like that. Just sort of pressing and pushing and encouraging, if you like. So these have been poaching on the second side for about another 3 or 4 more minutes. Press them with your fingers, they just spring back towards you. Slightly sort of spongy. So then straight away, I'm using a slotted spoon or a perforated spoon, remove them from the milk and put them onto a tray lined with a towel, because the towel will soak up some of the moisture that's on the bottom of them, the milk in other words. The milk that you have left over, which is slightly sweetened, you could use that milk to make the flourless custard that we serve with these. So I'm going to let those cool for a couple of minutes and drain, most importantly, and then we'll transfer them onto the wire rack. The final element of this dish is the Creme Anglaise, on which the Oeufs à la neige sit. Creme Anglaise is a flourless, thin custard and flavoured with vanilla. It's a classic dessert sauce. Separate some eggs and add sugar to the yolks. Beat until thick and lighter in colour. This will take a couple of minutes. Add some milk. This milk has been infused with vanilla, and whisk all together. Transfer into a saucepan and keep the vanilla pod in there to get the maximum value from it. Heat the milk gently and stir constantly for about 15 minutes. Think about this task in a positive way and you can enjoy a zen moment. The custard mustn't boil, so keep a close eye on it. Once it holds the line when you run your finger over the back of a spoon, it's ready. Pour it through a sieve and quickly press it through into a clean, cool bowl. Cut the vanilla pod in half and scrape out the seeds and add these to the custard, giving it a stir to disperse them. The custard will thicken as it cools. So the Oeuf can be very simply served, a pool of Creme Anglaise, little Oeuf sitting on top, but I like to take it a little stage further and to introduce some caramel, because I find the bitterness of the caramel helps to prevent the overall effect being too sweet. And in this particular case, I'm making what's called a dry caramel. Just dry sugar, no liquids. Turn the heat on underneath it, and nothing's going to happen for a few minutes. So why am I making a dry caramel? Because it gives me a thinner crisp of caramel than one that I make with water. So this is when you need to keep stirring it. You've got the liquid caramel, and you're stirring it into the slightly cooler sugar. Eventually,